Thank God it's Friday. You're welcome to Breakfast Central, the one-stop shop for your daily conversations and news and insightful conversations and everything you need to know. I am Benga Aboroa.
And I am Olive Ebony, very excited to be starting the show with you this Friday morning. Number of conversations have been explored in the past 24 hours. It feels like there are recent developments. Every day we're having new updates regarding the biggest political stories happening here in Nigeria. So grab yourself a cup of coffee to get your day started as we take you through these stories. And remember that you can also engage with us on social media at News Central TV on all platforms. We're streaming live on YouTube, on X, and you can tune to DSTV 422 or GoTV 23. And now let's get to the big stories. Updates in Rivers State. Again, the river keeps flowing. It would seem, according to reports by the Daily Post newspaper, that there are moves being made to recall Speaker of the House of Assembly in Rivers State, Martins Amewule. We cannot confirm this year. So far, it's just the Daily Post that reports this. But it just feels like there are new updates there. There's also reports of the House of Assembly in Rivers State calling for the judge to be investigated as well. You know, it just feels like there's just more updates to that. But piggybacking on the conversation we had yesterday about the Rivers State governor not being allowed access into the House of Assembly complex and how the House of Assembly members have responded to this, what they say is that the governor is whipping up emotional sentiment and that they never got any letter, and that even the letter, of course, that was circulated on social media was dated 10th and 11th, and was dated 10th, and the governor appeared on the 11th, and that if the governor was being honest and sincere with himself, what he would have done was wait for them to confirm receipt of the letter and wait for them to give him a date to appear before the House. But that the governor knows all this, yet went ahead to put up a charade for social media to whip up emotional sentiment. Again, the drama continues.
I mean, it's just unnecessary shenanigans, and the ordinary people of Rivers State are caught in the middle of this political theater and drama, which is very, very unfortunate. What's going on in Rivers State now can be described that the political situation there is as tit for tat. And it's been like that since for several months now. You know, people have personal vendetta. It's payback time for some people. And all these are just clogs in the wheel of progress of the state. How can the state move forward if everybody is just being petty?
Exactly.
The Supreme Court has asked the governor to do made a list of certain conditions to fulfill, and the lawmakers are making life difficult for him on flimsy excuses of he needs to give this, let him wait for a reply, and all of that. Let's hope somebody, I don't know, if Mr. President has intervened in the past and it didn't seem to change quite a lot of the fortunes of ordinary people of Rivers State. Right. So let's hope common sense will prevail on the stakeholders and we can move forward.
All right, yes, and just to, quickly correct that, I mean, you can see the letter there. It was dated 10th of March, right? 11th of March, right. Okay, now just to also quickly touch on the story mentioned earlier regarding the proceedings against Martins Amewule. A lawyer, Kenneth Amadi, has written to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to commence recall proceedings against the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, Martin Amewule. Now, talking about this lawyer, the letter was dated 7th March. It was received by the Daily Post on Wednesday, the 12th of March, and it shows that proceedings have been initiated to recall Amewule from the House of Assembly. The letter was titled Reaction Notice, Request Made Pursuant to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, and Freedom of Information Act. The lawyer explained in the letter that he's a lawyer to several indigents of Obiakpo local government area of Rivers State, that's Martins Amewule's constituency, and he further explained that the request is in accordance with the FOI Act 2011 and Section 69 and 110 of the 1999 Constitution, as well as Section 116 of the Electoral Act.
And what's his crime?
Well, they say they are pledging a loss of confidence in him by more than 50%
they sent him there to represent them, and he's
yes.
going there to fight a battle on behalf of somebody.
And who can battle with the Lord?
Yes, who can battle with the Lord?
Well, we'll see how this turns out. So far, the Daily Post has reported this, and we don't know what this will mean for Martin Amewule's speakership, for the Rivers State House of Assembly, and in general for the people of Rivers. Obiakpo constituency, please let us know if you are privy to this information and if you really have lost confidence in the leadership of Martins Amewule. Now let's move on to
I think our director is from Obiakpo, Deba.
Deba is from Obiakpo.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, I'm sure that he can communicate with us to let us know, what his thoughts are and what his community members feel about the drama going on in Rivers State. All right, let's move on to other stories, Benga.
Yes, Mr. President, if you recall, 2 years ago, and this is very personal to me because the heat in Nigeria, there are 9 planets. There's
terrible.
My very Mercury, Venus, but instead of Mercury, it's Nigeria that is just before the sun because of the heat wave we're feeling these days. And God bless the people that invented the air conditioning to make life easy for us. But for you to power your air conditioning units, you need stable electricity. You need electricity, and electricity is fast becoming a scarce commodity, despite being on Band A and paying so much for electricity, but yet it's like a mirage. So let's take a listen to Mr. President when he was in campaign mode and promised that we will have stable electricity, that in 4 years, if you don't get stable electricity, don't return me to the villa. Okay.
Way, by all means necessary, you must have electricity, and you will not pay for estimated bill anymore. A promise made will be a promise kept. If I can't keep the promise and I come back for second term, don't vote for me. That's the truth. Unless I give you adequate reasons why I couldn't deliver.
Unless I give you adequate reasons. So, politicians have a way of moving the goalposts, but he said it. He said, if I don't give you electricity in 4 years, don't vote me for second term. But we're halfway, almost halfway done with this term, a 4-year term. So you could do a lot in 2 years.
In the words of 2 great legends, Aki and Popo, Dana, how did he say it? Popo Dana na Yakwashia. Wow, Popo, this world is a Popo, man. When Popo falls to the ground, the Popo will scatter. Because this explanation about light and these promises, I don't know that the average Nigerian person can agree and attest to the fact that they have seen massive improvements in Nigeria's electricity distribution. What we've seen is, I don't know if we've had as much generation. Not even that. I was going to talk about the power grid collapse, or maybe it's been reported more now. But it feels like every other day we're hearing that the national grid has collapsed. In fact, they're trying to switch it now. I think the last one I heard was a disturbance with the national grid. Is it affecting the distribution of power? Is it affecting distribution of power to the average Nigerian? And even for those who are paying Band A, yesterday, for example, I live in an area where I have to pay a premium for electricity. I bought electricity at the start of the month. My electricity finished yesterday at 8 p.m. I first sat down for 30 minutes inside darkness.
And we're not even halfway through the month.
I'm not even halfway into the month. And my power is finished. And I paid a lot of money.
I'm sure you've not been Netflixing and chilling.
Netflixing where? When I'm spending early in the mornings, I'm at work. And the weather, unfortunately, is hot. So you can't even stay without the air conditioning. If you want to ration it and be like, I use the air conditioning for a few hours and then I turn it off. The weather is incredibly hot. So really, it's not.
I think you might have to invest in a jacuzzi to keep you really cool.
Or the neighborhood swimming pool.
Someone said the reason why the national grid has been collapsing frequently is, PHCN, they're trying to move so many people to Band A and give them electricity so they can make a lot of money. And this has an effect on the system. That's why it collapsed. They call it, instead of the grid is collapsing, they call it greediness. It's the power greediness of PHCN that is causing
But I think, again, this should highlight to us the importance of making the best of alternative energy sources. Nigeria is blessed with abundance of sun, which we can convert to energy, abundance of wind that we can convert to energy.
The entire southern coast of Nigeria is the Atlantic Ocean. You could use
Exactly.
the waves.
You go to the UK, for example, you're seeing the windmills everywhere, and these are just converting energy, energy and providing much energy for them. I'm thinking that we should start to explore more of that and find a way for it to be affordable for the average Nigerian. Because imagine that you want to set up solar system in your house. If we're being honest, the average everyday Nigerian will find it ridiculously expensive because you're spending millions to install the solar panel in your house with the inverter.
It's sad that we've not been able to fix something as basic as electricity all these years. It's very, very...
Some people have started going off the grid anyway. I know some people who have completely gone off the grid, put solars, installed solar panels in their houses, and they're really not depending on that. But we look forward to being able to see that by the end of this tenure, Mr. President will ensure that we will get power, constant power. We'll not have to pay through our noses. We have 2 more years to go, so a lot can happen in 2 years. That's what we wake up conversations this morning. Let's share with you our top stories. This morning on Breakfast Central, I am open to total peace in Rivers State, Governor Fubara says. Governor Fubara, before Uncle, would you be close to it? It's too late to be close. Kidnapped 9 surveyors regain freedom amid insecurity. We'll be talking about the insecurity that's coming to the southwest. And Sunday Jackson, Clemency plea rise for farmer on death row. This, of course, has been a major conversation in the past few days. Senate passes vote of confidence in Akpabio's leadership. Interesting one there. The newspaper front pages will review that and open the phone lines for you to call in. Join us for all these and more.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. It's time for headline news. I am Benga Boroa. We begin the news in West Africa, Nigeria, where the Senate has passed a vote of confidence in its President, Senator Godswill Akpabio. The vote was passed unanimously during Thursday's plenary following a motion moved by Senate Leader Opeyemi Bamidele and seconded by Deputy Minority Leader Olanere Oyewumi. The decision comes 48 hours after the suspended chairman of the Senate Committee on Diaspora and NGOs, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, an opposition PDP lawmaker who represents Kogi Central, addressed the Inter-Parliamentary Union in New York, claiming she was suspended for raising allegations of sexual harassment against Akpabio. In the meantime, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, the senator representing Kogi Central, has filed a contempt application against Senate President Godswill Akpabio over a suspension. On March the 4th, the Federal High Court in Abuja issued an order restraining the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions from taking disciplinary action against Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan. Justice Obiora Egwatu granted the order following an ex parte application filed by the senator's legal team. However, just 48 hours later, they suspended Akpoti-Uduaghan for 6 months over alleged misconduct. The upper chamber also ordered that her office be locked and all Senate property in her possession returned to the clerk of the National Assembly. The decision came after the Senate adopted a report from the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, chaired by Senator Neda Imaswen. The House of Representatives Committee on Finance has amended key provisions of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's tax bill, addressing concerns raised by stakeholders during a public hearing in February. The revisions impact several contentious areas, including the proposed increase in value-added tax, the introduction of an inheritance tax, taxation of free trade zones, and funding adjustments for TETFund, NITDA, and Naseni. Presenting the amendments during the bill's consideration on Thursday, Committee Chairman James Faleke noted that while stakeholders had recommended reducing the VAT rate to 5%, the committee proposed maintaining the current 7.5%, which the House subsequently adopted. The committee also removed the proposed inheritance tax and scrapped the planned funding cuts to Naseni, TETFund, and NITDA. A political crisis in Rivers State has taken a new turn as the State House of Assembly called on the Department of State Services to investigate the Chief Judge, Justice Simeon Amadi, over allegations of age falsification. The matter was raised during Thursday's plenary following the submission of documents to the Leader of the House to the Speaker of the House, I beg your pardon, by the House Leader, Honorable Major Jack. Shortly after, Deputy Speaker Dumle Mao made a formal accusation against Justice Amadi. The Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, has attributed the proliferation of universities to mounting pressure from lawmakers. Alausa spoke at the third edition of the 2025 Ministerial Press Briefing in Abuja on Thursday, at a time the federal government has come under increasing pressure to reform the country's education sector, with nearly 200 bills pending in the National Assembly for the creation of new universities. The minister emphasized that strengthening the capacity of existing institutions is more important than establishing new ones. He noted that there was no need to pressure the president into approving more universities. And in Central Africa, the Southern African Regional Bloc decided Thursday to end its military deployment to the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where it's lost more than a dozen soldiers in conflict in January. The 16-nation South African Development Community, SADC, took the decision at a virtual summit on the conflict in the area that has seen some 3 decades of unrest and claimed millions of lives. The summit terminated the mandate of SAMI DRC and directed the commencement of a phased withdrawal of SAMI DRC troops from the DR Congo. The SADC mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo is made up of soldiers from Malawi, Tanzania, South Africa, and was sent to the region in December 2023 to help the government of the DRC restore peace and security. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Bora. Breakfast Central continues in a moment.
During Thursday's plenary, Senate Majority Leader Okpeyemi Bamidele raised a motion citing Orders 41 and 51 of the Senate Rule Book following Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan's recent
The Nigerian Senate has again passed the vote of confidence on its President Godswill Akpabio, despite sexual harassment allegations leveled against him by suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. News Central's National Assembly correspondent brings us more details of this and more from Thursday's plenary. Let's take a look.
During Thursday's plenary, Senate Majority Leader Okpeyemi Bamidele raised a motion citing Orders 41 and 51 of the Senate Rule Book following Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan's recent appeal at the Inter-Parliamentary Union meeting in New York. Bamidele stressed the need to clear the air on the allegations of sexual harassment against the President of the Senate, which he says is distracting the upper chamber from his constitutional mandate.
We need to concentrate. There is work to be done, and we need to concentrate on our mandate, regardless of what anybody might say, Mr. President. We do not only stand united around our mandate, but that we also communicate this clearly to members of the Nigerian public, by moving a vote of confidence in the Senator Godswill Akpabio leadership of this Senate.
In response, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, thanked his colleagues for their unwavering support, urging them to continue contributing their quota to nation building.
We have so confidence in our female folk. In this 10th Assembly of the Senate, we have only 4 women, and the 4 of them are all committee chairmen, intentionally, in order to give a voice to women in the parliament. So I thank you for this vote of confidence. I will not take it for granted. And I also have confidence in you and your ability to continue to contribute your quota towards nation building.
Meanwhile, a bill seeking to amend the Electoral Act to provide for early voting during elections scaled second reading on the floor of plenary. Sponsor of the bill, Katsina Central Senator Abdulaziz Eradua, while presenting the general principles of the bill, said it seeks to enfranchise Nigerians who, due to their duties on election day, are often denied the opportunity to vote.
Over 1 million citizens who play critical roles in ensuring the smooth conduct of the elections are disenfranchised. These include INEC officials, ad hoc staff, the security personnel.
Other lawmakers expressed mixed views on the bill.
We must support this. Again, we said Nigeria is a giant of Africa. Giant in what perspective? We are a giant in the economy and all that. We should also be giant in democratic process.
Enshrining this early voting, people can vote very early, and those that wish to wait for the last date for them to cast their vote physical, that is also okay.
They are not totally disenfranchised. They are carrying out another essential service that adds to the value of the electoral process.
When the bill was put to a voice vote, the ayes had it, and the bill passed its second reading. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Sagir Ibrahim.
Interesting update there regarding the vote of confidence. It does not seem like this is about to end anytime soon. The Senate, of course, has come out to clear why they had sanctioned Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. It wasn't about sexual allegation. There was also a report or a video of the Senate president saying that she's trying to embarrass Nigeria. But I don't know if it's really Nigeria. It's Senate president that she's actually accusing, not the rest of us. I'm not among. Let's go on a quick break, and when we come back, more to be discussed.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central here on News Central Television. It's time for us to look at one of our top stories for today. The security crisis in Ondo State has triggered outrage, leading to a protest on Monday after armed assailants attacked multiple villages in Akure North local government area last Saturday, killing at least 14 people. And on Monday night, surveyors were kidnapped while walking on site at Iluabo. The abducted surveyors were released on Tuesday night after the families paid a ransom of 20 million naira.
Now here's what you should know about this. The release of the 9 surveyors came just hours after women of Ondo took to the streets to protest against kidnappings and killings, as you can see in the video. The Nigerian Institution of Surveyors, NIS in Ondo State, suggests that surveyors have been in danger of kidnapping since a reckless statement was made by the governor's aide, Bola Taiwo, who blamed surveyors for not securing themselves despite earning large sums from their clients. The Ondo State Governor, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, has assured residents of the state that his administration will strengthen security measures and equip security agencies to combat rising insecurity, particularly in Akure North local government area. This morning, we're joined by the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor of Ondo State on Strategic Communication, Alan Showore. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. I would like you to, first of all, speak to the statement or the allegations that these surveyors have been in danger of kidnapping since the reckless statement was made by the governor's aide, Bola Taiwo, who blamed surveyors for not securing themselves despite earning large sums from their clients.
Yes, I don't think we have to focus on those negativity because in the first instance I was not there. I don't know the context. I don't know the mood. But what is important is to focus on the utterances or the commitment of Mr. Governor, who is the leader of the state, who is the chief security officer of the state, and which is his restated commitment to continue to provide security for the lives and property of the people of Ondo State. So the governor, to this end, has even called a stakeholder meeting yesterday to reaffirm the administration commitment to protection of lives and property. That's what is more important.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Showore, what would you attribute to this recent spike in insecurity we've seen in Ondo State? First it was the attacks last Saturday, the killings, and now the kidnappers. What would you say is responsible for these kidnappers? The governor, as you said, is the chief security officer of the state, and the buck stops at his table. Is responsible for securing the lives and properties of indigents of Ondo State.
Yeah, thank you. If you recall, Ondo State have been a flagship when it comes to security, particularly in the southwest, because we share boundary with Ondo has boundary with the north central. Ondo has boundary with south towards Edo. Ondo has boundary with Bayelsa on the waterways. So what is happening is influx of some criminal elements who are coming in through the border and the boundaries without some proper documentation, and that's what the state has been battling with. But we thank God, and this is what led to even the establishment of Amatekun, if you remember. So that has been the challenge, but we are on top of the situation. The state has re-strategized to ensure that even animals are protected in Ondo State, let alone human beings. Nobody is happy to hear any negative news, because Ondo has always been a peaceful state, and we'll continue to maintain that to ensure that the people have the confidence to sleep with their two eyes closed.
So who are we clearly laying this blame or responsibility on? You're saying that Ondo State has porous borders, and Amatekun was set up for this purpose. So Amatekun and the police, yet we're unfortunately still experiencing these killings, kidnappings, payment of ransom in Ondo State. So let's ask, on whose shoulder does the responsibility lie to prevent the porous borders in Ondo State?
You know, the security of lives and property is the first priority, is the first assignment of every government. And we have central government, we have the state, we have the local. But hopefully and thankfully too, it is the same government at the central, at the state, and at the local government. So at all the levels of government, we must synergize, we must cooperate to ensure that this onerous duty of protection of lives and property is maintained. Very important. We do not even have to apportion blame to anybody. The military, the Nigerian police force, the civil defense, even the state-owned grown Amatekun Corps, they are doing well. They are doing well.
I mean, if they're doing well, how come we still have this incidents of kidnappings and attacks?
If you know the level of sacrifice that our security men are doing, you understand what I'm talking about. You can't apportion blame to anybody. We will always support them. We will always cooperate with one another. You cannot, for instance, say now, gone are those days when the federal government, the state government will say, it is the duty of federal government to protect the lives and property of the citizens of their state. And that's why you see the state government across Nigeria is coming out with the formation of state security outlet. Either you call it Hisba or call it Amatekun, because the security of lives and property is for all and sundry. Okay, we must ensure that our country, our state is safe.
Now, Mr. Shore, on Monday, some surveyors, a number of them were kidnapped, and they was said that they paid a ransom of 20 million naira to secure their release. The Nigerian Institute of Surveyors argues that the responsibility of security is government and not individuals. Now, I'm putting it to you that should professionals like surveyors be required to hire security escorts for field work? And what can the private sector do in enhancing security with the state? How can they work hand in hand? Because the same Mr. Bola Taiwo said, you know, you guys earn a lot of money, so you should be able to provide for your security. So whose responsibility is it?
No, I've just told you, and I've re-emphasized the government and the Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa's commitment to the protection of lives and property in Ondo State. It is the responsibility of government, federal, state, and local level. And for the community people, it's intelligence gathering. maybe volunteer intelligence gathering to the security agencies, cooperation. But it is the #1 priority of government.
So we hear you clearly, sir. We hear you clearly, but we want to know specifics. When you say the governor knows the situation, is working on it, is his responsibility, what will be different going forward? What are his strategies? Will there be an increase in recruitment of Amotekun members? Are they going to hire more vehicles? Would it be more intelligence-driven? The people of Ondo State deserve to know the specifics and not just a blanket statement.
Yes. For instance, this year, there's increment on the budget of Amotekun. So Amotekun will receive more resources in terms of logistics, in terms of hardware, in terms of operational vehicle, in terms of even psychological boost from the government. So that is definite. But not that alone. The state government will equally complement the effort of the Federal Security Agency vis-a-vis the military, the Nigerian police. When Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa came on board, he donated 25 operational vehicles to the Nigerian security agencies in Ondo State. We continue in that line and double our effort to ensure that this ugly trend is put to a halt. Ondo State remain one of the safest states in Nigeria, so we can't afford to lose that status.
What are the fears for, what the future should be in Ondo State? I mean, you're saying that the governor is on top of it. Nobody's definitely pleased with what's happening. What should we expect? Do we know who is behind these killings, these kidnappings? Do we have any clear information yet?
Was any arrest?
We do not have yet. Even part of some of this thing, yesterday there was a critical stakeholder meeting, and today there's going to be another meeting. All the security heads are running up and down for one strategy or another. But some of these things will not be disclosed until there is a breakthrough. But definitely, all the perpetrators of this heinous crime will be brought to justice. That the state government is committed to.
So what's your message as a representative of the Ondo State government to investors and members of the Ondo State public and even tourists that, might be apprehensive about traveling to Ondo State? Is Ondo safe and open for business?
Ondo State is safe. We are very, very committed to providing that enabling environment for investors to come around. And in terms of security, the government will double its effort to ensure that even animals, just like I said earlier, Ondo State is safe, let alone human. So nothing to worry about. Citizens should go about their normal duty and just be vigilant and always volunteer information to security agencies and collaborate with them, cooperate with them to ensure that they carry out their duties and their responsibility diligently. It's very important.
Just so we should, we have a certain number, a definite number, the last attack that happened of the people that were killed. We did see 14. There was another one of an eyewitness who said there were, I think, 40. Another person said 9. There have been different distorted numbers. Do we know for sure how many lives have been lost? And how well are we doing in terms of data, collating the data of the people that have been affected by this?
Yes, the state government is working on it because, and that is the problem. People just rush to the media sometimes without having the correct data. But definitely, the number of people that, the number of casualties are not up to 40, they are not up to 20. It should be in the neighborhood of that 9 or below. But again, the exact number has not been ascertained because when you say people die, we have to get their pictures, their names, their relatives, so that before you go out and push this narrative, you know what you're talking about. So the state government is working on that.
So we cannot say exactly what the number is.
No, up to now, because the security agency have been there, they were able to interact with those who are alive in the hospital. So those who are dead, we have to get their data correctly. Their pictures, their names, their family members. which the security agency are working hard to establish.
Okay, and in terms of the ones who have survived this and the families of the deceased, what is the plan of the state government to make compensation? We know there's no compensation that will be enough to console them for the loss of lives or the inconvenience they faced, for those who are maybe treating illnesses or dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. But is there any attempt by the state government to provide some form of comfort or solace or compensation to these victims?
Of course, absolutely. The state government will be responsible for their treatment and see how they are restored to their normal life.
Now, Mr. Shore, you did mention that there's a critical stakeholders meeting in security going on in Ondo State as we speak. There was a meeting yesterday. It's going to continue today. My question to you is this. Is there any cooperation with the central government in Abuja and other sister agencies beyond the Nigerian police? Are the DSS involved in this security meetings? And should the press and the people of Ondo State expect a communique to be issued as to the after the meeting, so we know what was deliberated on and what the government plans going forward?
Yes, of course, there's absolute cooperation. I told you earlier that fortunately, the same government at the central, in other words, APC control government at the central, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa. Both of them are APC control level of government. So there's absolute cooperation between the security agencies and all the sister agencies. And almost on a daily basis, the government official and the governor himself will be briefing the people as to the level of development and normalcy that we've been able to achieve.
All right, it is a pleasure to have you, Alan Showore, to discuss this. Unfortunately, these are not conversations that we're excited to have, and we certainly look forward to hearing more about what the state is doing. But beyond hearing more, we want to see that the people of Ondo feel safe again. But just to double check, we've seen a lot of people criticizing the governor's aide because of the statement that he's made, saying that his statement was made from a point of privilege. Are we expecting an apology?
Or punitive measures from the government?
That too will be taken care of.
In what form?
Don't let me let the bag out of the cat out of the bag. Just wait for it. But I know, to be honest, the government is committed to this. The governor is not.
There's a network glitch there, but
I was also going to ask him if the government, if it's official policy for people to start paying ransom payments, because you helped to fuel that kidnapping industry when people pay ransom.
But it's a catch-22, really. It's illegal to pay ransom in Nigeria. The Nigerian laws prohibit that. Yeah, there's been a terrorism law that prohibits that. Unfortunately, how do you then tell people to sit back, relax, and do nothing? So really, it's a catch-22 situation where...
And he's doing a good job in protecting his colleagues, saying that he doesn't want to let the cat out of the bag for the punishment.
When there are sensitive situations like that, I think it's important
very
that...
tragic,
that people who are representing the government recognize that they're not speaking in their capacity, but they're speaking also, and they can be interpreted to be speaking on behalf of the governor.
how insensitive can one get? You're earning a lot of money, so you should
protect yourself.
It's
just like somebody living in Banana Island and making certain kind of statements about, being inconsiderate of the fact that everybody's reality is not the reality of people living in Banana Island in Nigeria.
And I hope the Ondo State government do something about that statement. It has to, it has to be suspended, or they need to issue a statement.
A statement saying that this does not represent...
condemning that statement.
Anyway, that's all that we have for now. We're moving away from Ondo State and heading to Rivers State in a moment after this break.
After a week-long retreat, the House Ad Hoc Committee on Tax Reform Bills presented its report, forming the major business of the day's proceedings. The committee chairman, James Faleke, moved for the consideration of the report, providing a summary of key recommendations. For VAT revenue distribution, the House adopted a structure where 50% will be shared equally among states. 20% distributed based on population, and 30% allocated according to consumption patterns, ensuring revenue is tied to the point of actual consumption rather than where tax returns are filed. The House also approved tax exemption on the personal income of military personnel in Nigeria.
50% will be distributed equally, 20% will be distributed based on population, 30% will be distributed based on consumption. Emphasis has also been placed on the actual place of consumption, irrespective of where the returns are filed.
Nigeria's House of Representatives they've rejected or retained the Nigeria's value-added tax VAT for 7.5%, rejecting, of course, a proposed staggered increase to 15% by 2030. The House also rejected the reintroduction of inheritance tax, which it says is being disguised as taxation on family income. Our National Assembly correspondent brings us more in this report.
VAT revenue. After a week-long retreat, the House Ad Hoc Committee on Tax Reform Bills presented its report, forming the major business of the day's proceedings. The committee chairman, James Faleke, moved for the consideration of the report, providing a summary of key recommendations. For VAT revenue distribution, the House adopted a structure where 50% will be shared equally among states, 20% distributed based on population, and 30% allocated according to consumption patterns, ensuring revenue is tied to the point of actual consumption rather than where tax returns are filed. The House also approved tax exemption on the personal income of military personnel in Nigeria.
50% will be distributed equally, 20% will be distributed based on population, 30% will be distributed based on consumption. Emphasis has also been placed on the actual place of consumption, irrespective of where the returns are filed.
In addition, the House agreed to retain VAT at 7.5%, rejecting plans for any phased increase. Lawmakers commended the committee's work, stressing the need for tax reforms that prioritize citizens' welfare.
Reduction of VAT rate to 5% or alternatively maintain the current rate of 7.5%.
Honorable Chinda, please can you approach the chair?
The committee adopted the 7.5%. Recommendations for the reinstatement of contributions towards NASENI, NIDA, and a call to ensure continuous funding from the development levy. This, of course, was retained without sunset clauses.
The House further approved the appointment of one representative from each of Nigeria's 36 states to the board of the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill. On his part, Speaker Abbas Tajuddin praised the committee's efforts, highlighting the absence of dissent among lawmakers during the review process.
So I believe that what we have, honorable colleagues here, for those who are not members of this particular ad hoc committee, is the handwork of not a few, but of all, 36 members plus the regional and zonal caucus leaders. 100% consent and assent of all of them.
As Nigerians await the passage of the bills and presidential assent, many are hopeful that the proposed reforms will improve economic growth and enhance citizens' welfare.
You're welcome back. Now, a coalition of opposition lawmakers has pledged to resist an alleged plan by Rivers State House of Assembly members loyal to the Federal Capital Territory Minister Nyesom Wike to impeach Governor Siminalayi Fubara. Speaking at a press conference in Abuja, the lawmakers led by Honorable Ikenga Imo Ugochinyere accused the pro-Wike group of attempting to destabilize the state, interfere with local government elections, and frustrate the passage of the 2025 budget despite a Supreme Court directive.
There's nothing that can remove Fubara. If that's what is pinching him, getting him frustrated, he should be ready to get more frustrated. That budget, when they finish running, they will receive the budget. At least the whole world have seen that Fubara has implemented the judgment of the Supreme Court. The council chairmen are gone, election dates have been fixed, budget is ready.
Here's what you should know about this developing situation. Governor Siminalayi Fubara was unable to represent the Rivers State 2025 budget on March the 12th after pro-Wike lawmakers locked the assembly gate against him. Rivers State will hold a fresh local government election on August the 9th, 2025, following the Supreme Court order.
Again, just reveals the layers of drama that River State has to battle. You know, it just feels like it's a fight upon a fight, fighting for the governorship, fighting for the speakership, but not really fighting for the governance and the people of River State.
Which should be top priority. And talking about layers of this drama, what's the latest layer we're on? Because the last time we checked, the governor said, you know, he's not afraid of representing.
Oh yes, I think
budget.
that's currently where we are. Yeah.
So there's also the angle of the constituents of Mr. Martin Amewule,
local government,
threatening to recall him, saying that you are doing something else. We sent you there to represent us. You are going there for WWE battle. Okay, so we hope we just continue to monitor the situation in River State and keep watching, because we're happy that, you know, everything has just been battle of wits and talk, and there's no violent angle to it, even though some people have threatened violence, that if this happens, they would resort to violence and all of that. But we hope it wonn't get to that situation.
The governor has actually written another letter to the House, so we're waiting to see how that turns out. I mean, very interesting. The letter reads, let me read out the details.
Yes, please.
Notice of presentation of River State 2025 budget to River State House of Assembly, and it's addressed to the Speaker, Martin Amewule. He says, you may recall my failed visit to the River State House of Assembly on Wednesday, 12th of March 2025 for the presentation of the 2025 River State budget in compliance with the judgment of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. As you know, the planned presentation of the said budget could not take place because my entourage and I were locked out at the gate and denied entry into the premises despite the prior delivery of a soft copy of the notice to you, following the failure of the clerk to accept the hard copy from us. Recall further that before this unfortunate incident, the House issued a 48-hour ultimatum to present the 2025 budget, even though we were yet to be served with a certified true copy of the judgment and accompanying enrolled orders, he said. Governor Fubara, of course, informed the Speaker in the letter. He said, we were complying with both the order of the Supreme Court and the request of the River State House of Assembly when we came to present the 2025 budget on the 12th of March 2025. Anyway, against this background, it is my pleasure to again notify you, Mr. Speaker, of my desire to present the 2025 budget to the River State House of Assembly on Wednesday, the 19th of March 2025 by 11 a.m. or any other date within March 2025 that you may consider convenient. It is therefore left to be seen if the House will have the courtesy to respond to the letter, given the long time for the budget presentation. So we have from now...
Who signed the letter? Mr. Governor.
Yes, it should be Mr. Governor. I'm not seeing the signature here.
Because the House, the way they are these days, they are proud of it.
No. Mr. Governor knows better than to allow the Secretary of State government to sign. He knows better than that.
He's
so now
learning from his past mistakes.
Exactly. We have a 1 week window. The failed attempt was on Wednesday. He's given another 1 week. So it's left for the House to either say, come
date
on Wednesday, or Wednesday is not convenient, come on Friday. Without them choosing a date, Mr. Governor would assume that they're okay with the Wednesday and he will show up again, hopefully not to a barricaded house.
Hopefully, and so things can speeding up. The month end is approaching. Salaries need to be paid. We need the Supreme Court to stop withholding the revenue of River State government. And I mean, projects need to go on.
In fact, they will say to you that they're not frustrating the actions of the governor because they need the governor to approve they need the governor to present the budget so that they can approve it, so that their accumulated allowances and salaries can be paid.
So it's in everyone's interest. But knowing the kind of people that are there, anyway, I don't want to preempt
No, let's not preempt it.
Yes,
I think we are coming to the end of the crisis, the political drama and political crisis in River State. And the people of God said, Amen. Let's take you through a recap of the conversations we've had this morning and share what's coming up next. This morning on Breakfast Central, Governor Fubara says, I am open to total peace in River State, and the rest of us are open because we're already tired. Kidnapped 9 surveyors, regained freedom amid insecurity. We talked about the insecurity state in Ondo, joined by the SA to the Governor on Strategic Communication, Alan Showore, and Senate passes vote of confidence in Akpabio's leadership. We had a report from our National Assembly correspondent. Let's now bring you what's coming up next.
Coming up next on Breakfast Central, Sunday Jackson, Clemency plea rise for farmer on death row. We'll also bring you the newspaper front pages. Remember, you could call in and make your contributions. And also a review of our top stories of the week. Do stay with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. This is our final newspaper review for the week. And joining us is publisher of the niche newspaper, Ikechukwu Amechi. Good morning. Good to have you.
Good morning.
I'm actually very glad you are here because it feels like, you know, in the last
so
1
many
week,
issues.
Everything has dabaru, everything has turned upside down. And I'm waiting for you to give us your buzzwords this morning. And of course, we'll be starting off with the Punch newspaper. I mean, I'm curious to see what the front page of the Punch newspaper says. Federal government knocks Obasanjo as ex-president rates Buhari worst in corruption. All right, still here, presidency lampoons OBJ for warning Tinubu government may dwarf Buhari's fraud index. And here we also have TED Fund plans 700 billion naira disbursement of varsities. Customs intercept undeclared $1.1 million at Kano Airport. And we have
Cash. Yeah, I saw that video.
Cash. Fuel subsidy removal saved Nigeria from bankruptcy, says Tinubu. Tax reforms, reps approve new VAT sharing formula for states. Federal government, foreign airlines begin talks over rising fares. 2027, PDP governors, OB, NNPP, Mall alliance to stop Tinubu. Suspension, embattled Natasha files fresh suit as Senate backs Akpabio. And the drama continues. Let's move now to the next paper, the Vanguard.
Okay, the Vanguard newspaper, the headline there says, reps adopt 7.5% VAT. That's the current VAT rate. Reject increase to 15%. They wanted to double it. The writer says, reject inheritance tax. That's a good one. I'm sure so many Nigerians will be happy with that. Approved committee report. We await details of approval before comment, says Nasima. And don't celebrate yet. CSOs advises Nigerians. And still on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, millions of Nigerians still struggling with poor internet access. And Tinubu performed very well. Peter Obi, I guess there's a context to that. If you want to know what he said, get a copy of the Vanguard newspapers. I'll enact Fly Nigeria Act to boost local airlines, says Festus Kiyamo. What people will be saying, you know, don't tell us what you do, just do it, like Nike says. Federal government to curb borrowing by optimizing assets and resource mobilization, says the Finance Minister Wale Edun. Rivers crisis will shock Tinubu if Fubara is impeached, says Egbesu. Bode George, the writer says, Bode George to Wike the rhetoric, struggling to read that. But still on the front page of the Vanguard newspapers, Nigeria on the brink, but there's hope, says Catholic bishops. And Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, Obasanjo free not to use the road when completed, says the Honorable Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, since he said it's a corrupt and unnecessary project, so he's free not to. But the good thing is, Abeokuta and Otta Farms is not along the Lagos Calabar Coastal Way, so he won't be using it anyway. And it will be completed in 8 years. Who knows?
Please, I'm not there. Let's start with
if I say Baba, if you like, say Gida. now you get your mouth.
Federal government knocks Obasanjo as ex-president. Rates Buhari worst in corruption. The ex-president has rated Buhari worst in corruption. Let's get your thoughts on that.
Well, that's Obasanjo being
Obasanjo.
There is this saying in the US now, Trump being Trump. So Obasanjo must be Obasanjo. He does not pull any punches. And when he goes out there to criticize, he makes his point as he ought to do. But the truth of the matter is that, look, like Obasanjo or hate him, I don't think there is any Nigerian who wants to be honest with himself who will not agree that Buhari's government is about the worst we've had since 1999. I don't know whether Tinubu will trump that record, but he's only 2 years there now.
And what metrics are you using to judge the Buhari administration?
Every metric, in terms of corruption, inefficiency. What did Buhari achieve in 8 years? Is it the insecurity?
I mean, people point to the second Niger bridge infrastructure, the trains.
So that the only thing you do in 8 years is to complete the second Niger bridge, which of course you did not even start in the first place. But even if he had started and finished it, do you know the amount of money Buhari borrowed? Do you know the level of debt that government plunged us into? And I've said it here on this program before. Benga, travel by road now across Nigeria and ask yourself, where did Buhari put all those infrastructure that they were telling us that Buhari was borrowing to build infrastructure? Where are they? Where are those roads? Look, we may continue to deceive ourselves, but the truth of the matter is that if Buhari was not succeeded by another APC government, but even at that, even Tinubu himself, his ministers, everybody, they have said that they inherited a very bad situation.
I mean, it's almost like they're no members of the same party.
Exactly.
You hear the sort of comments they make about the past administration.
Exactly. So
it's not also.
Exactly. So you asking me, is it insecurity? People being slaughtered by herdsmen all over the place? People killed in Benue State as if they were not human beings? People slaughtered in Plateau? People slaughtered, and to make matters worse, when the Benue elders, I don't know if you remember, went to see Buhari in Asorok, he told them to learn to live with their neighbors. And the neighbors were those who were slaughtering them and made no effort. So there's no arguing the fact Buhari took us to Stone Age. Buhari took us to Stone Age, and I am not surprised. This is a man who never did anything to improve himself. in the 30 years interval between when he was overthrown.
He was facing his farm business.
And the farm had a certain number of cows that never increased. So even as a farmer, Buhari was a failure. Even as a farmer, Buhari was a failure. And look at all the revelations that are being made now. Is it his Attorney General, a Minister of Justice, or is it the Aviation Minister, or is it who? Or is it the woman that was in charge of the what do you call it?
There's a picture of the former president in the villa. He was watching TV and relaxed. He had a toothpick in his mouth, and that, many people have said, it defines his presidency. For someone to have contested or sought elective office for the highest office in the land for 4 consecutive times, you get the opportunity and then you're so aloof. I'm sure his ministers had the best ride ever. You know, you come in, there's no pressure.
If you sit down to discuss,
you become a minister, you stay as minister for 8 years.
If you have access to even those who served under Buhari and discuss with them, now that they are no longer in power, and if they tell you what they know about that man, you will, that's the fact, you will be surprised that Nigeria even survived Buhari. Buhari was a disaster in power.
Yeah. I mean, Tinubu's administration don't seem to agree with the former president. They have, of course, lampooned him, according to the Punch front pages. Front page of the Punch also says fuel subsidy removal saved Nigeria from bankruptcy, says Tinubu.
But, Olive, I just told you now, Tinubu can, or his people can lampoon Buhari, Obasanjo for all we care. But these are the same people who told you, Nuhu Ribadu said it, Oshomole said it, that the economy was dead. Who ran it aground? Yes, even as at the time Jonathan left office in 2015, Nigeria's economy was on the ascendancy. Our GDP was robust. Buhari took everything down. These same people you are talking about now were the people who said that if they did not do what they did, that there would have been no economy, but so to say, by now. So they can continue talking tongue-in-cheek, but they themselves confirmed that Buhari was a disaster.
But Mr. Mechi, let's look at 2 things that happened in the Buhari administration. Maybe we're not being too fair to him. There was COVID-19, a global pandemic, the world shut down, it was a huge disruption. And then the Russia-Ukraine war, is that not enough reason for, you know, his performances not to be stellar?
Is it Nigeria that only faced the COVID-19? What of other countries?
Even China.
Even in Africa. What of other countries? And what was the level of impact of COVID-19? If we are sincere to ourselves, here in Nigeria, don't forget that the Jonathan government also faced Ebola virus and all that. You, as a government, should be able to solve problems. We've had times, look, when Obasanjo was also in office, we had global financial crisis that they were able to weather. The truth is that Buhari did not have the capacity to be president. I've argued this before. Even making Buhari chairman of a local government would have been an honor that was way beyond him. Then to make him the president of Nigeria for 8 years, look, we are caught in disaster, and disaster we got. And,
you know, him getting the presidency ticket, so that means there's also, the APC does have a level of blame to bear if, you know, we go by what you're saying. And this same APC that campaigned that they're going to continue from where President Buhari stopped. And now, you know...
Look, continuing what's this?
I've always argued. No, but Tinubu said that they were going to continue now from where Buhari signs off. And, of course, that is now what he's doing. Nigerians are still being pauperized by the day. We are still borrowing massively. And nobody is seeing where these things are going into. But, look, in any other country where the vote of the people determine who gets into office, there was no way APC would have won the 2023 election, because every election is a referendum, not only on the people in power, but even on the political party in power. Now, everybody knew. Look, I don't remember. I don't know if you remember what Tinubu said, whether it was in Cross River or Akure North when he went on campaigns in 2023. He said they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to do it. We will teach them how to do it. Who are they? The same government. They have consistently said that Buhari ran Nigeria aground. So how can a party produce a government that ran the country aground and 8 years down the road, you are compensating the same political party with another term? It doesn't make sense. But of course, the vote of the people does not count in determining...
They'll say the hood doesn't make the monk. But let's move on to the Daily Times newspaper. There's a headline there I'd really like us to look at, an X-ray. The Daily Times newspaper, the headline says 3,689 prisoners on death row nationwide across the country. That's a staggering, huge number. We also have IGP reshuffles, police leadership. We deployed 7 AIGs and 18 CPs. DSTV go to the tariff hike suit. Court temporarily stops FCPC from sanctioning multi-choice. Customs sees 1.8 billion undeclared foreign currency in Kano Airport. Let's talk about this 3,689 prisoners on death row nationwide. That's a huge number. I'm not sure if we have a moratorium on executing on death penalty in Nigeria, but why torture these people? What I've learned is a lot of the state governors, maybe for religious reasons or otherwise, adamant to sign the death warrant or the execution order for, I guess maybe they're afraid spirits will disturb them in the night or something like that. And we're looking at forming laws or adjusting the constitution to make it be the job of the state attorney general, so the spirits can go and disturb the AG of the state instead of the governor. What do you make of this?
Yeah, well, of course, having over 3,600 people on death row is quite a huge number. I'm not too sure. In the last 25 or 26 years of this, our democracy, aside Oshomole, who signed the death warrant, and I think about 2 or 3 people were executed when he was governor. The Nigerian governors have shied away from signing the death warrants, and that's why the number continues to increase. As a person, as a human being, I don't agree with capital punishment.
I mean, you see kidnapping, banditry, armed robbery, you have to set deterrents and lessons.
As a person,
And you're not the only person. I mean, there are people around the world who are pushing for the abolition of capital punishment.
I don't agree with capital punishment. I think it should be taken out of our statute books. Give these people life imprisonment and let them sit.
Life imprisonment after taking people's lives, life imprisonment on taxpayers' monies. You feed them fat if they have long age, if they live to old age,
Benga,
for 100 years old,
I'm not talking
feeding murderers and criminals.
I'm not talking on the grounds of morality. This is my personal
I respect
conviction. But the truth of the matter is that the very sad thing about death sentence is that, look, some people have also been killed
wrongfully.
Miscarriage of justice.
For crimes they did not commit. And when you are executed, there is no remedy. You're already killed. So that even if they come out tomorrow, we've seen people in the US who, after serving 30 years, they will now say, because of new technologies, new ways of carrying out investigation, they will say, we are sorry. This man was wrongfully convicted. Now, what if that person had been executed?
And that's a valid argument.
We've seen people going to the stake and still professing their innocence and saying, I didn't commit this crime. You kill me for nothing. And the person is executed. And again, the flip side of also the argument you make, I agree. There are some crimes that people...
If you're caught red-handed and
commit
tight evidence, everything...
Exactly.
Yes.
I said there are some crimes that people commit and you ask yourself, are these human beings? And
the beheadings of girls, femicide.
And you will tell yourself that this man is not a human being and in fact should not be allowed to dwell here with us. But the flip side of that argument also, I don't know if you see, when the armed robbery, the punishment was death by firing squad, did it reduce the number of robbery incidents, violent robbery incidents? It doesn't. So that even if you kill these 3,900 people, and you know, those days, public execution was a spectacle. People go and watch.
Echo Atlantic.
Everywhere, and watch these people being executed. And while they were being executed, some people will be picking pockets there and then. So it doesn't even stop.
It doesn't act as a deterrent.
Exactly.
But I think it's even beyond the death row. Even generally, our prison system needs to be looked into. Is it really serving as a deterrent? Does it really reframe the mindsets of the prisoners? Some of them come out even more.
But they've changed the name. It's no longer prison. It's
correctional facility. Is it truly a correctional facility?
It is not correcting anybody. The truth of the matter is that people go into Nigeria's correctional institutions or prisons, and they come out worse.
All right.
Pickpockets go there and they come out learning the trade of real armed robbery. Because there is no... I visited a prison in the UK, Olive. In fact, you even prefer not to be there. The only thing is that your freedom is restricted. But those guys live life better than those of us who are
better than some higher institutions, postgraduates,
NYSC,
living conditions. Yes.
I said I visited this prison to see a friend of mine, and it was unbelievable. The guy was there adding weight. In fact, he was doing exercise every morning because he wanted to reduce weight.
It was enjoying.
It was that. The only thing is that you are denied your
freedom of movement.
Freedom. But here, go to Ikoyi prison. Go to any other prison. By the time you come out, you are so dehumanized.
Except you're a VIP.
There was this story yesterday that said Nigerian prisoners are dying in droves because of the quality of meals they are served. So starting from the meals they give you, how can you say you are feeding a prisoner with about 1,500 naira?
I remember in law school when some of my colleagues went to, it's part of the experience we gained. I didn't go. My colleagues went to the prison. I remember them coming back so dejected, discouraged. People's eyes were swollen because they had cried. You know, those who have been wrongfully arrested and just thrown. And the living conditions, despicable.
And do you know why? And do you know what? To make matters even worse, 70%
are innocent.
Those are waiting trial.
Oh, right, so okay, yes. Absolutely.
And justice delayed is justice denied.
Those are waiting trial. And there are people who spend up to 10 years
awaiting trial.
Awaiting trial.
It's really sad.
Tragic.
You know, the conversation is to come up again as to the effectiveness of our current correctional facilities.
And the entire criminal justice system.
Yes, our criminal justice system. But these are conversations that we'll have on another day. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
For joining us. Thank you.
The pleasure is always mine.
All right, the weekend is about to start for us, but we're not quite done here on Breakfast Central. Let's share with you some other stories. Stay with us.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, there's been huge social media outcry against the recent Supreme Court judgment upholding the conviction and death sentence of a farmer from Ondo State, Sunday Jackson, who was reportedly said to have killed a herdsman in self-defense. International human rights activists, the 19 Northern States and FCT Christian Association of Nigeria have called on the Ondo State government to grant clemency to Sunday Jackson.
The ruling has been described as a miscarriage of justice, arguing that Jackson was provoked by the herdsman who attempted to take his life. Activists following the case say despite Jackson being attacked on his farm by a Fulani herdsman wielding a knife, which led to a scuffle where Jackson overpowered the herdsman, seizing the knife and fatally stabbing him after sustaining injuries to his legs during the assault, the court ruled that Jackson should have fled the scene after disarming his assailant instead of retaliating. Joining us this morning is an international human rights activist and the CEO of Widows and Orphans, William Devlin. Good morning, William. Thank you for joining us.
God bless you and thank you, and greetings from New York City in the USA, and appreciate you bringing attention to this very, very important case and this abuse of human rights.
All right, thank you very much. A very sad story to discuss. We're also joined this morning by legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, Fred Nzako. Good morning, Fred. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. We'll begin the conversation, talking about the case. It's generated a lot of uproar on social media because, of course, the matter went through the lower courts before it got to the Supreme Court. But we'll begin with you, Fred. You are a lawyer. Talk to us about your thoughts on the case so far. Many think it is a miscarriage of justice. It's gotten to the Supreme Court. There's a petition online asking that people sign this petition saying that self-defense is not a crime. But let's get your thoughts from the legal perspective.
Well, naturally and normally in our legal system, self-defense is an alibi that should avail anybody who is accused of murder or even of manslaughter. Because a man is not expected to stand idly by and get his head cut off while he has the opportunity and the capacity to defend himself against an assailant. So that is provided in our law. But with the measure of self-defense is also to be determined whether the defensive mechanism was proportionate to the assault or disproportionate to the assault. And if in the opinion of the court that the self-defense mechanism or approach adopted by the victim of an assault is proportionate to the reaction, and in that case, the alibi can now stand. But if the court feels that the self-defense mechanism is not proportionate to the action of the assailant, then the court may call the one who is defending himself out to further questioning. The challenge we have in this matter is that we do not, as members of the public, know the exact issues that were placed before the court. And now the judgment has become not only a matter of social interpretation but has also become a matter of even religious understanding and issues about interpretation based on the sectional interests of Nigerians. Now, many people are saying a Fulani herdsman because we know that many challenges between the herders and the farmers arose out of the inordinate assault by the marauding herdsmen who usually like to dispossess the farmers of their land or even trample on their crops with their cattle. And it has always raised issues and raised problems. On account of such information at the back of Nigerians' mindset, they feel that the herdsman was the one who assaulted and tried to assail the victim, Mr. Jackson. And Mr. Jackson, in a bid to defend himself, in the process, killed the herdsman. I do not know exactly the issues that were tabled before the High Court. For the High Court to have found him guilty, I do not know what we are tabled before the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. And for the matter to go up to the Supreme Court level, a lot of things were going around my mind, and I'm sure that such things run around in the minds of many Nigerians. Did Mr. Jackson get adequate legal representation? Did he have the money and the wherewithal to hire a good lawyer to present his case well? Or did he, another question is, was he found guilty on account of poor legal representation, possibly on issues of technicality or otherwise?
Mr. Nzako, is that a possibility? Is that a possibility that he could have gotten poor legal representation and that could have led to the judgment that we now see?
Yes, those are possibilities that are worrying my mind. And
if that's a possibility,
yes, it's a possibility.
Is it also
a possibility that if one?
Is it also a concern to to look at the fact that he was detained, the way in which he was detained for years? The pre-trial detention might also be interpreted as a miscarriage of justice. Is that also something to look at?
In human rights community, detention without trial amounts to abuse of the fundamental rights of the citizen. And even in our constitutional jurisprudence, one is not supposed to be detained without trial. And that is why we keep shouting about the number of inmates awaiting trial in the various courts. In your newspaper review, you talked about it, and it is a very terrible sour point in our judicial system. And that is why even the Administration of Criminal Justice Act tried to minimize the amount of time spent during trial, and also try to ensure that so many people are brought before the court for any act of any accusation, so that they will face their day in court. Because justice delayed is obviously justice denied, and it is not good for human sentimentality that somebody will be detained without trial. The person does not know his fate, whether he'll be freed or not. So that is one aspect of it. But in all manner of approaches, the way anyhow you look at it, people are now saying that most likely that Mr. Jackson did not get proper legal representation. And we said that's also possible. But whether it was a political judgment, that is one way. What we must be sure that we don't accuse the court of delivering political judgment because a farmer and a herdsman was involved. Because if you go to the social media, so many people are saying, oh, the farmer was sentenced to death because he killed a herdsman. That if it was the other way around, the herdsman would not have been sentenced to death. Yet again, it is a social problem that Nigeria has not been able to fully grapple with and find solutions towards. And that is why those of us who are development economists and who want to look at the issues from the broad perspective will always ask that the government should, as a matter of policy, ensure that ranching is introduced and made to be effective in our environment, so that this migration of cattle from one point to another, leading to issues similar to that of Jackson, will be stopped. Mr. Jackson is now...
Thank you, Mr. Nzako. I would like to bring in William Devlin into the conversation. Now, you've followed this case, and in close quarters, I believe you've met Mr. Sunday Jackson. Your co-panelist did raise many pertinent questions about, the possibility of not having adequate legal representation. Could you tell us what you know about the case of Sunday Jackson and how you got involved in it?
Yes, of course. And God bless you. And Sunday Jackson is an innocent man. This Sunday Jackson, this brother in Jesus, Messiah, was farming, a college student, minding his own business. And this Fulani herdsman came upon the property and attempted to trample the crops of Sunday Jackson, who was minding his own business. These two men did not know one another. And Sunday Jackson said, look, you know, please get your cows out of here. And I heard that from Sunday Jackson's own lips when I visited him in Yola, in the Adamawa State Prison there in Nigeria on February the 19th, 2021. And then when the farmer, Sunday Jackson, this innocent man, said to the herdsman, please leave. And then the herdsman pulled out a knife and began pursuing Sunday Jackson, stabbed him twice, once in the leg. So then therefore a fight ensued. And this is clearly a slam dunk case of self-defense. Self-defense. There's Sunday Jackson, this innocent man, minding his own business. And it's also a Muslim on Christian crime. And he knew that Sunday Jackson was a Christian. So it's not just farmers and herders, it's also persecution. And not only was Sunday Jackson persecuted that day, and of course, any one of us that would be attacked by an armed assailant would want to run. And after you're stabbed in the leg and then you can't run, this is a miscarriage of justice by every court level. And originally, Mr. Sunday Jackson, this innocent man, and we encourage people to go to #SundayJackson. And at one interview, we've already had 2.2 million hits. And so we're appealing to the governor of Adamawa State to grant him clemency. And if not clemency, then commute to sentence to time served. This young man
you say Sunday Jackson is innocent.
He's been on
but the Nigerian courts
for 10 years.
Mr. William Devlin, you said Sunday Jackson is innocent, but the Nigerian courts think otherwise. Could you speak to the type of legal representation Sunday Jackson got? And when you saw him in 2021, what was the situation? Where was he?
He was on death row in Adamawa State Prison in Yola, where myself and Barrister Emmanuel Agebe from the U.S.-Nigeria Law Group visited him. So he had legal aid representation, and the attorney, the barrister, did a fairly good job, but a legal aid, and this guy was, Sunday Jackson, had already been in prison 6 years. That's when we took over the case. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a human rights advocate and a pastor. I got involved by my team member, Barrister Emmanuel Agebe, and he said, let's represent him. So we have had a bevy of lawyers there in Nigeria to represent him. And then obviously the lower court found him guilty of murder one. And murder one, you have to substantiate this was premeditated. And attorney Barrister Fred, I'm sure, knows this. There was no premeditation in this. Sunday Jackson, a farmer, a college student, attempting to farm and support his wife and 2 young daughters, and this unknown person comes up and stabs him. So he has had legal representation. Has he had the best legal representation? We hope so. But obviously, there is persecution in the prosecution. Sunday Jackson is a Christian believer, and we believe he's not getting good representation, not from the attorneys, but from the courts. And then I was there in the Nigerian Supreme Court on Friday, March 7th, a week ago today at 12 noon. 29 cases were heard, and then Sunday Jackson's case, it was the last one, it was number 30, and all the Supreme Court justice said was case dismissed. So we wept there. We wept in the Nigerian Supreme Court for this innocent young man who, by the way, during his time in prison, his wife has left him and his 2 children are now with an extended family member. I've been financially supporting Sunday Jackson and his two daughters since 2001. So he had legal representation. Was it the best? No. But this man, by anyone's justification, is an innocent man, and we hope that the governor of Adamawa State will have sympathy and empathy and common sense and grant Sunday Jackson clemency or commute the sentence to time served. So this is a train wreck of Nigerian justice. We have people from around the world that are appealing to the governor, appealing to the Nigerian government to let this man go. He's
William,
already
what would you
served
say?
10 years.
What will your
and he needs
response
to be free.
There are people who argue that a number of this is, whipping up religious sentiment. What would your response be to people who say that, we're making it about religious sentiment as opposed to stating what exactly happened?
Well, you cannot remove the religious sentiment from the case. It was a Muslim attacker and a Christian farmer. It's not just, the narrative is just that. It's not just a herder and a farmer. We know what happens every day. 8,000, according to Open Doors, 8,000 Christians were murdered in Nigeria in 2023. This is statistical, analytical evidence. It's not anecdotal. So you cannot remove the religious sentiment. I appreciate the question, but you cannot remove the religious sentiment from this. Clearly, a Fulani Muslim Islamist and a Christian farmer who's innocently attempting to care for his family, we need to bring, religion is already a part of it. And so it is a part of the warp and woof of the legal argument here that we're attempting to say, this is not the first time that a Muslim Fulani Islamist has killed a Christian farmer.
Thank you very much.
Sunday Jackson is not the only one in prison for defending himself.
I want to bring in Fred as well to respond to that question. And also because you know that Fred, he's given statistics as to the number of Christians who have been killed. And there are many people, especially in places like, in state like Southern Kaduna, in places like Southern Kaduna, where they will argue that there's been an agenda for, religious cleansing. So for those who argue that this is just whipping up religious sentiment, Fred, I want you to answer that same question. Do you think it is? Do you think it's a concern that should be looked into?
As much as issues of religion cannot be divorced completely from what happened between Sunday Jackson and the Fulani herder because of their differences in religious beliefs, one cannot begin to whip up sentiment beyond the issues of law. We are more interested in issues of law than issues of religious sentimentalism. In criminal trial, one should look at what we call the actus reus and the mens rea. The mens rea and the actus reus. Did Sunday Jackson have any intention to kill Mr. Herder? The answer should be no. Did Mr. Sunday Jackson plan ab initio to kill Mr. Herder? The answer is no. Then the issue of provocation can now come in as an alibi for Mr. Sunday Jackson. Well, both provocation and self-defense. I do not understand why those were not campaigned in the court at the level of at the trial level. I don't really understand why in matters like this the court will find Mr. Sunday Jackson guilty of murder when both alibis should avail him, the alibi of provocation and the alibi of self-defense.
Valid
and
point
that's why
there.
I say that so what.
I want to just quickly double up on that. You've raised valid points. The actus reus, the mens rea cannot be said to show that there was an intention to kill the herdsman. So provocation should have been raised there, which goes back to the earlier question about representation. This young man is trying to cater to friends of his family, might not be able to, could definitely maybe not have been able to afford quality legal representation, and now he's been sentenced to, being killed. Is there any way out of this? Is there any other option, that can be granted, looking at the fact that there might have been a miscarriage of justice from what you're saying?
Right. Yeah, well, we're hoping for clemency from the governor or a
can we please have Fred respond to that, and then William can share his thoughts?
Yes, having exhausted the legal chain from the High Court up to the Supreme Court, there is no other opportunity left to him other than pardon, from executive pardon. And that is why many Nigerians are asking the government to exercise the prerogative of mercy and ensure that he gets some clemency. It's only the executive pardon that can get him off the herdsman. Meanwhile, it is so because it's only the governor that can sign the execution warrant. And we know that most governors in Nigeria for the past 10 years, only one has ever signed one execution warrant. So, and that's why we have so many condemned criminals, condemned in quote, that is criminals on death sentence in our various correctional centers or in various prisons.
All right.
So
now, finally, William, just before we wrap up, we do know that the Supreme Court is the apex court in Nigeria and has exhausted all legal options. What's the situation, current situation now with seeking clemency from the governor of Ondo State?
That's exactly what we're doing, and I'm very thankful for you bringing attention to this case. We have a team of lawyers, of barristers, not only in Nigeria, but around the world, in the U.S. Just the other day, I was at a hearing, and Sunday Jackson came up. I was at a hearing at the U.S. Congress. And again, Nigeria is being looked at as being placed on the country of particular concern list because of events like this. And so we're hoping, we're not only hoping, but we're praying that the governor of Ondo State there will grant clemency to Sunday Jackson, and if not clemency, then a commutation of the sentence, and then time served. 10 years that this young man went in at age 20, now he's 30, he's lost his wife, his 2 young daughters are ill. I've met Sunday Jackson, I've met his daughters, and we're going to continue to have a worldwide, international, global outcry, and to say that Sunday Jackson is totally innocent. This is a miscarriage of justice. Nigeria has become really the legal laughingstock of the earth, and we hope that the governor of Ondo State will have mercy and grant clemency to this innocent man, Sunday Jackson. And by this time next month or next week or even tomorrow, Sunday Jackson will walk free. And we're praying for that. I encourage your viewers to pray for Sunday Jackson and to follow us at hashtag Sunday Jackson. That's hashtag Sunday Jackson. Thank you so much, and God bless you, and pray for his release.
William Devlin, thank you very much for lending your voice to this course and speaking to us about it. Fred and Zako, thank you also for your time.
Thank you.
For talking to us about the case and what the next steps are. We wish you a wonderful rest of the day.
Many thanks.
And, you know, what a sad story, a reminder of the fact that we are still facing challenges when it comes to farmer header crisis, and it's posing a big challenge and an even bigger challenge because religion, of course, comes into the conversation. A miscarriage of justice has been alleged here, basically because of the fact that I mentioned in the question, he could not have afforded to have gotten decent legal representation, and if legal aid could not argue for something as simple as provocation, you know, that he didn't have the mental intent or the physical, you know, action
and
to
these
want
are basic principles.
These are basic things. 100-level law. It's, you know, you didn't have the mental intent to kill this man, you know.
So
but again,
then how did he go all the way to the Supreme Court? And
you know, the Adamawa State government, the Adamawa State governor, is being asked for clemency, and the coming days would reveal what the next steps are for Sunday Jackson. But this is where our own journey on Breakfast Central this week comes to an end. We'll be back again on Monday. Breakfast Extra continues over the course of the weekend, continuing with these stories. So do well to tune in at 8 a.m. I am Olive Emodi.
And I'm Benga Borough. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.